Hi, everybody. We are ready to dive into exercise 5 in your workbook, which is about acceptance. I am just going to get my screen sharing here. I just wanted to say I am actually really excited about, I'm not at the front. I'm really excited about today, about today's exercise. This is going to be really a continuation of course, the entire workbook, but specifically exercises 3 and 4 that we've already done. So we're going to be here in your workbook. Actually, I forgot to write the page numbers down. I think that they are about page 19 to 23-ish. So these are the pages we're working through in your workbook. So if you do not have this workbook and you want to get yourself a copy of this workbook, go to personalbestseminars.ca. You're going to click the resources tab, and then you're going to click on the workbook, and that's going to bring you to your free download of this 40-page workbook, which is basically all of the concepts we teach inside of Personal Best Seminars Level 1. So just a recap of exercise 3 and 4 from last week. So we spent some time in what is called the resistance cycle. So we talked about all events are neutral that happen with us. And so we choose all events are neutral. So we choose resistance really is what happens. And so for whatever the case is that resistance happens, which really comes from our belief system. And our belief system comes from the past. They say that your belief system was developed between the ages of 5 and 12. And so all of what's happening inside of your belief system is events from the past, which you have now brought into the future, which created the resistance to begin with. And then that sends you into this automatic reaction, which then you are in resistance to your automatic reaction, like the cycle just continues. So what we're going to be talking about today in exercise 5 is this idea of acceptance, because you have a choice in all events is to accept them or resist them. So last week, I mentioned the example of divorce. So in any situation, or a situation like divorce, is if you really think about it, is most times you have a partner who's happy about the divorce and another person who may resist the divorce. So you have one on the acceptance side and one on the resistance side. So this idea or concept that all events are neutral, I understand, is a really big concept to grasp and understand. And so I'm going to take you through the acceptance side. And so you can have an experience of how freeing this side can be, rather than choosing the experience of victimization. So we do a lot of this inside of our core program. I just want to share, like, I'm giving you maybe a 5-10 minute lesson on this. There is so much more to this lesson. I'm really giving you the bullet points. Inside of our core program, the 1, 2, and 3 is where you're going to get a really deep understanding of this. So if you're interested in that or learning about that, personalbestseminars.ca, click on the programs tab, level 1, and you're going to learn about how you can start if you want to learn more about this. So I first want to give you, this is actually extra information. This isn't in your workbook, but it's really essential to this idea of choosing. So the idea is really we control only 3 things in life. And if you listen to Erin Harbinson's interview with Nomad Roofing, is she alluded to this model right here that we talk about inside of the core program, is that we control our beliefs, our attitudes, and our behaviors. Everything else we either have influence over, or it affects us. And so just an example of something you may have influence over, which I myself thought I had control over, but I was incorrect, is my children. And so you think you have control over your children, but really we just have influence over them. They have control over their own beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors, and we can influence them the best way that we know how. As far as what affects us, just for an example of that, gravity, right? So gravity affects us. Could be the weather affects us. Those things really outside of us is the things that affect us. So why I wanted to talk about this today is because then we actually have the power to choose where we go. So we choose because we have the control. So we choose how we think, how we feel, and how we act or respond to all of the events in our life, right? That's what we have control over. So you could choose this idea of acceptance. So I'm going to work through this entire model here with you, just so you understand. So when you're in an event, is like I said, you can choose resistance, or you can choose this idea of acceptance, or just to surrender to what is. And that, I'm going to give you examples so this makes more sense. But when you get to the point of acceptance, is that you really do get to the point of embracing growth and joy. If you even think of your own life, something that may have been fairly traumatic to you, and years later, is that somewhere along the line acceptance happened for you, and then you actually see the growth that you accumulated or gained from that event. And so really what I'm doing is giving you the stepping stones so that can happen quicker for you, rather than kind of waiting for time to do itself. So with that said, is that there's an extra part in here that I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I want you just to know that there is an extra step in here. And that's this idea of accountability. So after you hit acceptance, is that you get accountable as to why and how that happened. And then you get to this step of growth and joy. What I want to also say about this, accountability for me and the framing of this does not equal responsibility. Is I feel like sometimes those things get confused or mixed up. Accountability and responsibility in this context are very different. I wanted to share the accountability piece inside of this chart because we do have an accountability intensive coming up. This is such a big concept. Jay Fizzett wrote an entire book on it called Reframe Your Blame, as well as he created the workshop Accountability Intensive from the workbook, not the workbook, from his book, because it is such a big concept to grasp. So I'll show you more about that here at the end. So I'm going to dive into my experiences. So if you watched exercise 3 and 4, is I talked about this idea of, so I had 2 examples for myself. So I have resistance when my kids leave dishes in the sink and they don't clean up after themselves. So I know a lot of moms do. So since I can't control them, right, and I only have influence, but I'm going to share my experience. So just to recap, is I go into resistance. The resistance comes from my belief system. My belief system in the past, what happened for me in the past is actually I was a middle child, and I had an older sister, a younger brother. And I very clearly remember the times in my life where things just were not mine, or bought specifically for me. Older sister meant I got a lot of her hand-me-downs. Younger brother meant he didn't get my hand-me-downs, right? And so I really didn't have a lot of things that were considered mine. 3 years ago, my husband and I bought the house we're in today, and we completely tore the house apart, literally full reno, including the kitchen. And so this kitchen now was something that was mine, was that I designed. I, chose every part of this kitchen, and now my kids are coming in and leaving the dishes in the sink. Oh my gosh. So that sent this automatic reaction for me where I felt disrespected. I felt disappointed. I 100% got angry at times, which then put me back into the cycle of resistance again. So that is, I'm just going to jump forward because I want to stick with the same story. So then the recognition that I actually have a choice. And so when I look at this idea or this concept that all events are neutral, is I can accept the part that I had experiences in the past where things I didn't perceive to be mine because they were hand-me-downs because I was the middle child. And then I can also connect it is that I really perceive this kitchen to be mine. That has nothing to do with my kids lives and experiences. So I can give you an example of my daughter. Last year, she did a gap year, and that girl ran her butt off for an entire year. She worked 40 plus hours a week. And so most times when she had time to feed herself, she didn't have time to clean up. So what was happening in her life wasn't about her, oh, I'm going to disrespect mom. It was about, I need to fuel my body and get back out to the world. And so when I could take a step back and accept that the dishes themselves are neutral, and I can look at other contributing factors, that one, my daughter is running a really busy schedule. She's doing adulting for the first year in her life. And then for me is that this experience of feeling disrespected or feeling my anger and frustration really comes from this idea of I'm the middle child and I get all of these hand-me-downs. Right. So I can just set that aside, and maybe it leads to a conversation with her, or it could just lead to me just doing the dishes. And then I just get to grow from it, and I don't have to sit in this resistance cycle of something that happened from the past. Right. So another example that I gave last week was this idea of people buying gifts for me. I really resist people buying gifts. And it's funny, one of my really good friends, so she heard my exercise last week. And so she took it upon herself to like buy me this cup, because she's like, I'm going to make you work on yourself. And she did, because I still have resistance, but I understand where it comes from. And I can just graciously accept this gift, and I don't have to feel like I need to repay her for anything. So my resistance from my belief system or my past basically was this. My parents were very busy people. They both, they were probably the first generation where they were both working parents inside of the home, or working adults in the home. And us kids were very busy actively in sports. We were all a part of the swim team. And so we just led very busy lives. And my memories of the times that I felt loved were times that I was actually giving something and I felt noticed from my parents. And so I equate getting something as that I need to actually do something to earn this love, or gifts from other people. So when people want to buy me dinner or give me gifts, I've struggled with that, because I think I need to give them something in return. And so my automatic reaction was stress. It was that I need to, oh no, I don't have something for them. I need to get something from them. And everyone has this experience at Christmas. You guys know what I'm talking about, which then sends me into this resistance, because as an adult, I know that's not true. And so it just does this cycle. So when I go to the idea of surrender or acceptance, as I can accept that I'm worthy and deserving of love, period. It doesn't come with, there is no comma, nothing comes after that. I'm just worthy and deserving of love. So I have one more example for you guys. And I alluded to this friend of mine last week, or an exercise 3 and 4, where he has resistance to authority. So anytime he had some authority in his life, mostly jobs, is he resisted it because of his belief system. So his past situation is that he actually did a large part of his childhood raising himself. His parents were unavailable due to kind of decisions in their own life, which created, so for him is that he took that past event, brought it into the future anytime he was working with a boss or employment or anything. And his automatic reaction was to sabotage his job and his situation, because he didn't want anyone to have authority over him. And that creates resistance of, okay, now I'm looking for a new job, and I need to, in his mind, probably about begging or bowing down or trying to saying that he needed something from someone, because now he needed a new job, right? So what happened for him is, when he went through this process, is that he did recognize where this idea of authority comes from. And he accepted the fact that someone of authority in a job situation is actually a gift, simply because he's got a job, right? And so he was able to accept the authority in the job situation and separate that from his entire life. It doesn't mean that they have authority over every part of his life. So what's interesting is that what he did is he created a side business for himself, where then he is the authority. He gets to make the choices and decisions. And that really supported him, really supported him in just accepting his role in his lane, in his everyday job. So are you guys kind of seeing how this works now? So what I want to offer you guys is additional resources. So this is, like I said, it's a really big concept. Even the idea of accountability inside of this chart is, like I said, a really big concept. So this is what we're doing as we're relaunching the program, the Personal Best Seminars program in Edmonton and even Alberta, is that for $497, you can get yourself a seat inside of the level 1. The level 1 is 3 days of us going through all of these concepts that are in the workbook and actually doing some experiential learning where you get to look at how does this concept really exist in your life. So a part of the $497 is you get a seat in that. But you also get 2 seats in Jay Fizette's Accountability Intensive Weekend, which is happening June 23rd, 24th, and 25th, where the entire weekend is about this idea of this concept of accountability. And I want to say again, not responsibility. There is a difference. So when you read Jay's book and when you attend this seminar, is you'll get the full grasp of how powerful this accountability concept really is. Included in this launch price is you get a digital copy of Jay Fizette's book, Reframe Your Blame, as well as you get a digital copy of the 12 Pillars of Creation. And there's a program inside of that which you can work through, just like you can work through the workbook. All of this valued individually is a value of $3,325. For our launch and relaunching this program is that we are offering this for the low price of $497. So I would say you guys need to get your seat in this. The first weekend is, like I said, right there is March 17, 18, and 19 in Edmonton. So in order to get yourself registered, again, personalbestseminars.ca, go to programs level 1 and register to get yourself registered. All right, we'll see. Thanks for your time today. Good luck inside of that workbook, guys. Get yourself registered in the level 1, and we'll see you guys next week for exercise 6.